yeah, I don't want to work in like a big law firm or a big office or a big consulting or anything that is like that anymore. And I have to make this work out. And so I'm going to bet on me, and I'm going to give myself the opportunity to be a business owner and an entrepreneur in a space that's still not fully, milked. And I'm going to be just quite different. And that's the part of like why I wrote my upcoming book, is because I want to instill in people the idea that anybody can be extraordinarily creative and come up with ideas of value no matter what you do. And that is usually one of the hardest parts, is really being so authentic and attuned to who you are and what you want to do, that nobody can replicate you, and that no competitor can actually, like crush you, because you're always like a step ahead of the game. And I feel that that's something that is so valuable and so important, particularly in the moment that we're living. We have received about 10 million applications in the past 2 years for new businesses, according to the US Census and the Small Business Bureau, right? And that is a number that has not been seen in this country ever in the whole history of the United States, which tells you that people are embracing a risk taking again,
Hmm.
that kind of like very risk taking, entrepreneurial perspective and identities. And also it tells you that there are better ways to do things, that these people thought, I can do something better in this industry, I can do something better in a different industry. And that is exciting, but also we want to provide a lot of different tools for those people to succeed, because the majority of businesses, when they fail, it's not necessarily because they didn't have funding or capital, it's because they were very rigid and they were so married to their original ideas that it's almost like they felt that they were like killing a part of themselves if they had to shift, or if they had to pivot, or if they had to use their assets for other things that were not the original idea. And that is a lack of creativity to begin with.
Yeah. You said a few things that I really like. One of them was no plan B. I think oftentimes we come up with our plan B before we even worked plan A, and it becomes a crutch for us, to not give it everything we've got and really believe in ourselves. So I like that you said that. I've heard that a few times recently from some great business leaders and successful entrepreneurs. The other thing that you said that I think is even more important is regardless of your resources, you realize that people want to see you, that you had to be out there doing and meeting and building your business. And I think oftentimes, as you suggested, we get too wrapped up in this 60-page business plan that's so articulate with the numbers and the formulas and all the data that hardly ever gets looked at. I'm a believer in a business plan, but more about the framework and kind of the compass to get you going, but not the 60-page, delirium that a lot of us see when we look at business plans. But it's so important to do the work, to be out doing the work. I call it rubbing the soles off your shoes because you're out hitting the pavement, especially if you're in a Manhattan or a big city, right? Um, talk a little bit about what your initial work schedule was. How much time were you out hitting the pavement and working the industry to get some business?
I was out and about quite a lot, because I knew that for me it was about building two types of relationship. One, it was going to be the people like galleries and artists and art fair directors and things like that. All those people are part of this ecosystem, right? And I was a complete outsider. So I needed to go and build those relationships with them and shake my hand and say, here I am, and this is what I do, and these are the things that I'm considering. And I am not only selling but art, but I am also, building this community around social media and things like that, which at that time it was very happily embraced because nobody else was doing it. And at the same time, I was like, give me a referral with other people, right? Like people I had known throughout my life, or like, this is what I'm doing. Or would you want to be somebody who wants to spend, money investing in art and things like that? And like, I would go and ask the next person and the next person and the next person, right? Because that's what it is to be in the business of sales. And that is what it is to be an entrepreneur. So I pretty much spend you know, good 6 to 8 hours every day, just hitting the pavement and doing that thing. And that's like, after that, I would do admin work. I would write my, content. I would think about the images. I would plan, right? And so that kind of like human part of being out there in the world was the most important thing for me, because there are no businesses without relationships. The truth is, right? Like, that I've never known a business that is successful that doesn't have good relationships with vendors, with customers, and things like that. And I needed to establish that because I didn't have anything. I was a complete outsider. It's not that I was someone in that world who left a gallery or whatever to open, her own thing. It was like I was a complete outsider.
Yeah. And I don't think that there's any exchange for actually being out doing the work physically yourself. And a lot of people fall back on their online resources or their network online or behind their desk or their phone, but there's no exchange for being out in person. So I love that you talked about that. Tell us about your book and what we can expect when we see your book come out, and what we'll get out of it.
That's a very exciting thing, because this book is called How Creativity Rules the World, because I wholeheartedly believe that without ideas, there is no progress. I wholeheartedly believe that we are here doing what we're doing because of creativity,
Hmm.
and that, creativity is the concrete application of an idea to solve a problem or to improve something that exists, right? So it's been basically 13 years in the making, because since I opened my business, I realized about all these things that happen in the world that are the product of human creativity. And I have been fascinated by both all the clients that I have worked with, ranging from, hip hop moguls to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. And at the same time, I've had this incredible experience to work with contemporary artists who are extremely successful. And I wanted to marry both things, and to integrate them in some sort of a blueprint that people could implement in their lives, with a combination of storytelling, data, research on the fields of psychology, neuroscience, entrepreneurship, business, and sort of like hand this to the world and say, well, look, this is going to be a manual for life, because the ideas are timeless. Nothing there ever expires. And it is also, creativity has been confused with artistic talent for so long. And it's really not the same. As I have been saying until I'm blue in the face, that creativity is a unique ability to come up with ideas of value, right? But
Hmm.
artists are constantly coming up with ideas that are received or not well received, whatever it is, right? And this has been confused for a long time. But, people like Steve Jobs had one of the most creative minds in the world, and he was not an artist, right? So it's a very different proposition. And I went out and I took all the habits. I was on the search of pattern recognition, and I took all the habits of those incredible people, and I also compare those habits to the things that I had incorporated in my entrepreneurial journey, to see which ones were the best ones and the ones that people need to hone the most. And I found that it was not complicated, but it required daily work, right? And so what this book is that blueprint that gives you all the habits, all the tools, and at the end is there's a whole plan on how to put these things together by connecting invisible dots and predicting the future. And I think that visionaries, just as much as artists are people who can actually build the future right now. And
Hmm.
that is, the advantage, right? Is like you're constantly looking to do things that are not necessarily well known at the moment, but they will be. And once they become something that is a little bit mainstream, you want to keep exploring in all those intersections and margins to bring that. But a lot of people miss these opportunities because they are not paying attention, because they feel that they don't know how to, because they don't trust their guts, right? Even though we have been equipped with this incredible sense of intuition and instinct, so that it guides us not just when a bear is going to attack us, but also find the right opportunities in business and in our careers and professions. And so that's what this book is set out to do. And I'm very, very excited that after working so hard, is finally coming to the world, and it'll hit every bookstore on March 15th.
Well, we're thrilled for you, and what an important topic. I like how that you talk about Steve Jobs and how creative he was. You know, we're only limited by our own beliefs in ourselves and what we think we can do. And it's amazing. People often give me compliments for businesses that I've started. And it's not that I'm different than them. I'm just willing to be creative, think of an idea, and try it and see what works. And I always encourage people to do that. When I do find an entrepreneur, I love to encourage them and support them because I know what it feels like to get into that creative space and come out with something. So again, a compliment to you and your book that's coming out, and I wish you much success on that. Thank you for sharing your story and being vulnerable to your honesty of leaving a top, law school and doing your own thing. But those complete opposites there, from law school to curating art in your own business, they almost seem so diverse, but yet as an individual, you followed your passion. So what a great story to tell, and thank you for your time today. How can people find you, and how can they find this book if they're not in one of the bookstores that it lands in?
Yes. Hi. Well, thank you, Jim, for your words, and thank you for the opportunity of being here and talking to your people. Uh, the book is on Amazon and bookshop.org and Barnes and Noble. And I'm not selling the book myself because it's published by HarperCollins, so it has really big distribution. And if you love independent stores, independent bookstores, if you buy through bookshop.org, it benefits your independent store
Mm-hmm.
because it immediately reads where you are located, and so that's a great thing. Target, Walmart, etc. And my website is Brito.com. That's BRIT as in Tom O.com. And you have links there to all my social media and also a form, an email form. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to hear from all of you. And thank you for staying with us through this time. It's my pleasure and honor, really, to talk to wonderful people like you, Jim, and like you, listeners. Thank you again. And, hope we can keep in touch and connect in real life.
What a great resource of materials from Maria. Thank you for tuning in and being on the show. We look forward to your comments. Send your emails in as you do so frequently. Thank you so much for that, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you for listening to today's show. It is my pleasure and honor to interview all of the guests that have been on the Answer is Yes podcast. If you have enjoyed the show, please go on iTunes and subscribe, give a rating, or simply tell a friend about the show. We also believe in the message of our guests and the positive influence of their stories. As my own mentor and coach, David Meltzer, has taught me, spend some time every day thinking and writing about the things in your own life that you have more than enough of. You will find out how blessed we really are. Please visit my website, livelifedriven.com, for the latest updates about me and what I'm doing. Plus, I post a monthly blog about the many topics on this show. This podcast can also be found there. As I learned early on in life, what you believe is what you will achieve. Thanks, Mark Victor Hansen, and thank you, and have a great week.